Hello, this is John Kvale, and this is our January, yes, already January 2026. If it's going to all go this fast, it's going to be a really quick year. Hoping for a new introduction. We definitely have some new theme music that we hope that you like. For those newbies, we do this in an audio, video, podcast-like format. This helps us go through the items that we posted about in the month of January or the last month, and there is actually some information that came up after our last post with regard to the FOMC chairman. Almost a cheerleader. But for those of you that are new, if you're driving down the road listening to this, keep your hands and eyes and ears on the road and don't get distracted. We hope you enjoy. So let's get on down to this. Here we are. For those of you that are driving, I'm going to the first financial planning topic, and that is the tax timelines. One of the things that we receive repeated inquiries for obvious reasons, and I've linked to this post that we talked about it. There's more information on this post, so if you're interested, click on this post, is when do our tax forms come out? Tax forms are supposed to come out. This is from our vendor, our internal, and it's got our first run at January 30th and February 13th and February 27th. The thing is, they don't always come out on that time because they're a slave to other people's calculations, basically. So it's a best effort. The 1099-Rs, which are basically IRA distributions, those are the easiest ones. Those are already out. And you either receive that electronically or in paper, most of the time in paper. But the other ones, the 1099 miscellaneous and consolidated, has a lot more information on it. So these are the general timelines. Remember the correcteds. I'll start talking about correcteds, but for right now, I'm just letting everybody know what the timelines are for just the regular ones. I threw this in, and this is employer. This is from Bloomberg. I didn't link it here, but this is when W-2s, 1099s. 1120S's, S Corps, all the due dates for all of that. And essentially this gives us a good picture. For most that are watching this, it's probably most important this April 15th, all the things that are due, 1040, 1041, which is the trusts, FinCEN, that sort of information. But this is also a good timeline to know when you should expect that. Hopefully you've got your W-2 if applicable, and then need to pay out 1099s by March 2nd. So if you've got 1099s, then those are sent out. Okay. Capital market comments, not a lot here. I go as a kind of behind the curtains. What I do is I go back and look at what we did for the whole month of January, and even back into December. A lot of shuffling back and forth, and for those, let me see if I can get this out of the way here. For those of you that are in listen-only mode, here's a link to the new nominated FOMC chair. Jerome Powell is out early mid-year. The new nominee is Kevin Warsh. I know a little bit out of the blue. Mr. Warsh wasn't the number one most expected. And I couldn't even find I looked on LinkedIn, the Fed website, Wikipedia, and everything was copyrighted. So I don't even have a picture. Don't worry, you'll see plenty of pictures of him. One thing that I'd like to remember and I brought out here is that there is a vetting process the Senate must ultimately approve. So just because someone is nominated, they can be turned down. All right, so what does all this mean? Let's watch the Treasury market. It doesn't show too much in this graph. This is a one-year graph. This is the 10-year on the orange line. This is what most of the current policymakers want this to come down. It's coming up. Why would that be? Well, that affects 30-year mortgage rates. We've talked about that, along with any other type of long-term lending. So it is going up now. The Treasury market will sniff out, detect, front run things that they don't like about what maybe Kevin Warsh will do. You can see here this is very short term, but this is the 2-year coming down. The 2 years slowly drifted. This is all the way back to August. The Federal Reserve can lower this rate, but they don't really control this rate without a blunt instrument. So let's keep an eye on that. It's a good place to look. We love to watch interest rates. They affect so many things, as well as government policy. Appreciate your time. And hopefully we've got a new introduction and some cool video that, believe it or not, I always understand how hard it is to do things like letterheads and things of that nature. Everybody has their specialty. So when we try and create new stuff like that. All right, we'll talk to you in February, at the end of February. Thanks so much. Have a great start to the year.